I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to know when to progress an exercise. So specifically, this is talking about core-focused exercises, but really it can be any exercise that targets the core, where your core is involved, which is really every exercise. So think, planks, pull-ups, push-ups, can even include squats or deadlifts, but any core-focused exercise. We're talking about how to progress and how to know when to progress, or maybe how to know when to modify. So when it comes to needing to modify an exercise or knowing if the exercise maybe isn't right for you at the time, I want you to think of the 4 P's. And so we're gonna go through those. So the 4 P's. The first one is pain. So any pain or discomfort is a sign from your body saying that whatever you're doing is, maybe you're not able to manage the pressure, or there's something off that we need to take a further look at. So if there's any pain, always be assessed for that so that you can get an individualized plan. But if you're having any pain during an exercise, you want to hold off or modify the exercise. So pain is first. Pressure. Pressure meaning pressure down in the pelvis or pelvic floor area. So if you're feeling a pressure or heaviness feeling, sometimes it can feel like a bulging in the vaginal area, those symptoms we want to avoid. So that means there's pressure down on the pelvic floor, those pelvic organs. We just want to minimize that pressure or heaviness feeling. So if you're experiencing that during an exercise, likely we need to modify in some way. Maybe if that's a squat or deadlift, maybe we need to go lighter on the weight, or maybe we need to look at your form, or if it's something, maybe we need to look at your breathing strategy. So are you exhaling on the hard part of the exercise? Those types of things we want to look at, okay? So pain, pressure. The third is peaking or doming. So peaking is another term for doming, meaning that bulging, doming that occurs along your midline, meaning the pressure is going out at a weaker point. So the pressure in your core system, you're getting that doming, pushing out on your core during an exercise. So that is just a sign, again, maybe we need to modify, maybe we don't. If you have control over that doming, meaning maybe you change the way you're engaging your core, or change the way you're breathing during the exercise and it lessens or goes away, then that's okay. So not all doming is equal in that aspect. So the peaking, so that peaking, doming, we want to watch out for that. It's just a sign that can tell you you may need to modify the exercise. So it's something to look for. I always recommend, if people think they might be experiencing that, maybe you feel like a lot of pressure in your abdomen and something just doesn't feel right, video yourself. See if you're experiencing that, or have somebody videotape you, or do the exercise in front of a mirror so you can see. That's a good way to modify, or to monitor that, so you know when to modify. That I have another video all about that, so where I go more into it. So check that video out too. And the fourth, so we've got pain, pressure, peaking, and the fourth is peeing, okay? So urinating, leaking while doing an exercise. That is a red flag to you that something in your system is not working properly. So any leaking, even if it's a small amount, some people will say, oh, it's just a little bit, it's okay. Any leaking at all is a sign that the pressure in your core system is not being managed appropriately. So we need to look at that coordination. It's not always about strength. You might be super strong, but you're still leaking, and maybe it's only at your heaviest, 1 rep max deadlift, or maybe it's only after you've ran 3 miles when your body starts to get fatigued. But we want to see when that's happening, why it's happening, and look at the coordination of your entire system, okay? So if that's occurring, we need to modify in some way, or you need to be assessed so we can look at the full picture and figure out why that's happening, so that we can get you the right plan to help you stop leaking, because leaking is common, but it is not normal. So if it's happening, we need to figure out why it's happening so that we can get it to stop. So those are the 4 P's that will help you know if you need to modify an exercise: pain, pressure, peaking or doming, and peeing or leaking, okay? So those are 4 things you can monitor to know when to modify an exercise. A few other things to look at, maybe when you can progress an exercise. So obviously, if you can do the exercise without any of those things occurring, that is great. The other things to look at are your form. Are you maintaining good form? Again, video yourself if you're not sure. Are you maintaining good form? Do you feel like you have control over your core? So a lot of times, if an exercise is really hard, you may not feel like you have a good control over your body. Maybe you're holding your breath, you can't maintain a good breathing pattern, you might be getting some doming or bulging, in your abdomen, and just it doesn't feel like you have good control over your system. That's a sign that if you don't have that, maybe you need to modify. But if you have great control, you're able to do it, great form, you know, you're not fatigued, you're able to maintain a good breathing pattern, you don't experience any doming, you're inhaling, exhaling, good core control, and it feels easy, then you might need more of a challenge. So you might need to then go up to that next level. And you never know until you try. So you can always try that next level. And then if you get to that next level and you're like, okay, wait a minute, you know, I don't feel like I have good control. I have to hold my breath. That's the only way I can do the exercise is if I hold my breath. And then I feel like pressure down on my pelvic floor, then maybe no, you need to stick at that other level for a little bit longer, build up that strength, try some other exercises in different positions to strengthen your abdominal wall kind of all over, and then try that again. So there's all kinds of ways to progress or modify an exercise. It's all about knowing when. So we want to load the core to strengthen it, but we have to load it properly and not overload it to the point of where we're getting a ton of pressure down or we have to hold our breath to complete the exercise, okay? So if there's no pain, no pressure, heaviness, no leaking, no doming, and the exercise feels easy, you have good form and good control over your core, then you're probably ready for that next level, okay? And then just another example of maybe when to modify, maybe you're doing a pull-up and you do see the doming. You say, you know that you have a diastasis, you know you have an abdominal separation, you do see some doming occurring, you feel some pressure, heaviness down in the pelvic floor, and you're not able to maintain a good breathing pattern, then you might need to modify. So maybe you use a band for your pull-ups, or you do another modification, easier variation, and build your way up to being able to do a regular pull-up. So that can go for any exercise, okay? So monitor your core. Do you have good control over your core? Can you maintain a good deep breathing pattern? Are you able to lessen the doming by changing your breathing strategy or the way you're engaging your core? Those are all good things, okay? So when it comes to modifying or progressing an exercise, we want to make sure we're looking at the big picture so that way we can best determine the exercises and how you're doing them so that you can rehab and strengthen your core.